The Empress's wine goblet shattered against the marble floor, and every voice in the grand hall died at once. I hadn't meant to stare. But in my defense, I'd never seen anyone look so utterly alone while surrounded by 300 courtiers bowing at her feet. Her silver skin caught the light of the twin chandeliers, and her 4 eyes, 2 large, 2 smaller beneath them, held an emptiness that made my chest ache. "The human delegation may rise," announced the Chancellor, a towering Velkhari with ceremonial scars across his cheekbones. His tone made it clear we were barely worth the words. I stood with the other 7 members of Earth's first diplomatic envoy to the Velkhari Empire. We were supposed to be honored guests. The reality was closer to exotic pets, brought out for amusement. "Ambassador Chen," the Chancellor continued, addressing our leader, "you may present your tribute." Ambassador Chen stepped forward with the confidence of a man who'd spent 30 years in diplomacy. He opened the ornate case containing Earth's gift, a collection of seeds from every continent, preserved in crystal vials. Symbolic. Hopeful. Probably meaningless to beings who had mastered faster-than-light travel when we were still figuring out bronze. "Your Radiance," Chen began, "humanity offers. I've seen seeds before." The Empress's voice cut through the hall like a blade through silk. She hadn't moved from her throne, hadn't even looked at the gift. "Is this what humans consider worthy of imperial attention?" Whispers rippled through the assembled nobles. I caught snippets. Primitive. Waste of time. Should have sent them back. Chen, to his credit, didn't flinch. "Your Radiance. These represent the biodiversity of our entire Chancellor Voreth. Conclude this audience. I tire of it." The dismissal was absolute. Chen's shoulders dropped almost imperceptibly as he closed the case. The other diplomats were already backing away, eager to escape the humiliation. But I couldn't move. She was still looking at nothing. Not at us. Not at her courtiers. Not at the magnificent hall built to showcase her power. Her 4 eyes gazed at some point beyond all of it, and in that moment I recognized something I'd seen before, in the mirror, after Elena's funeral. "Why do you keep staring at me, human?" The question struck me like a physical blow. Every eye in the hall turned to me. The Empress had noticed. The Empress was speaking to me. The lowly technical attaché, brought along only because someone needed to handle the translation equipment. Ambassador Chen made a small, strangled sound. "Because you're stunning," I replied. The silence that followed was so complete, I could hear my own heartbeat. One of the nobles, a younger male with elaborate silver rings through his ear fins, let out a harsh laugh. "The creature doesn't even understand the insult it just committed, Marcus," Chen hissed. "Apologize. Now." But the Empress raised one elegant hand, and even Chen went silent. "Stunning," she repeated, tasting the word. Her 4 eyes focused on me fully for the first time, and I felt the weight of her attention like standing beneath a waterfall. "Do you know what that word means in Velkhari, human? To be stunned is to be struck senseless. Rendered helpless. Defeated." "I know." "Then you admit you sought to insult me?" "No." I took a breath, aware that I was probably destroying any chance of a successful diplomatic mission. Aware that Chen would have my head. Aware that none of it mattered, because I'd spent the last 2 years learning not to care about consequences. I meant that looking at you makes it hard to think. That's not an insult where I come from. It's just truth. The noble with the earrings stepped forward. "Your Radiance, allow me to remove this offensive. Veylith." The Empress's voice stopped him cold. "I did not ask for your intervention." She rose from the throne and the entire hall seemed to hold its breath. The Velkhari were tall by human standards. She stood nearly 7 feet, her silver skin luminous against the deep purple of her formal robes. She descended the steps with a grace that made every movement look choreographed. She stopped 3 feet from me, close enough that I could see the subtle patterns in her skin, like circuits of light beneath pearl. "You do not lower your eyes," she observed. Should I? Every being in this hall would. Most would have prostrated themselves the moment I approached. "I'm not from this hall." Something flickered across her face. Surprise, maybe, or curiosity. It was gone too quickly to identify. "What is your function in this delegation, human?" "Technical attaché." "I maintain the translation systems." "A servant. A specialist." The noble Veylith made another sound of disgust. "Your Radiance. Surely you won't continue to, Veylith, if you speak again without permission. You will find yourself maintaining translation systems on a mining station." The Empress didn't look at him. Her eyes, all 4 of them, remained fixed on me. "What is your name, specialist?" "Marcus Cole." "Marcus Cole." She pronounced it carefully, the sound strange on her tongue. "You looked at me and saw something other than an empress. What did you see?" The honest answer would be political suicide, but I'd never been good at dishonesty. and I'd stopped caring about politics when I buried my wife. Someone who's tired, I said. Someone who's been performing for so long she's forgotten there's a person underneath. Someone who looks the way I feel most days. The hall erupted. Nobles shouted over each other, demanding punishment, demanding removal, demanding blood. Chancellor Vorath bellowed for order. Ambassador Chen looked like he might actually faint. The Empress simply watched me through all of it. Then she smiled. It was small, barely there, gone in an instant. But I saw it. And for that one moment, the emptiness in her eyes lifted. "Chancellor," she said, and the hall fell silent immediately. "The human delegation will be housed in the Sapphire Wing. They are to be treated as honored guests of the crown." "Your Radiance," Vorath began. "Additionally, this one, Marcus Cole, will serve as my personal liaison during their stay. He will attend me each morning to discuss cultural matters." The silence now was different. Shocked, scandalized. "Your Radiance," Veylith breathed. "This is highly irregular. The court will remember that I am Empress." Her voice carried an edge that made even the boldest noble step back. "Or shall I remind them?" No one spoke. She turned back to me, and for just a moment something passed between us. Recognition, maybe, of two people drowning in their respective roles. "Tomorrow morning, Marcus Cole. Do not be late." She swept past me toward the private chambers, leaving chaos in her wake. Ambassador Chen grabbed my arm the moment she was gone. "What the hell was that?" he demanded. I watched the doors close behind her, still feeling the echo of that almost smile. I have no idea. But for the first time in 2 years, I felt something other than numb. The Sapphire Wing was designed to intimidate, and it succeeded admirably. My quarters alone could have housed my entire apartment building back in Chicago. The ceilings soared 30 feet overhead, decorated with crystalline formations that cast shifting patterns of blue light across everything. The bed was the size of a small swimming pool. The bathroom had functions I was genuinely afraid to test. I didn't sleep. By the time the palace's equivalent of dawn arrived, a gradual brightening of the ambient lighting that mimicked the rays of their distant sun, I'd spent 6 hours replaying every moment of the audience. Chen had tried to brief me on protocol, on the 1,000 ways I could make things worse, but I barely listened. He'd given up around midnight, muttering about career suicide and diplomatic incidents. A servant appeared at my door precisely when the light reached full brightness. They didn't knock. They simply materialized, silent and silver-skinned. "The Empress awaits," they announced. "Follow, D-eyed." The walk to her private chambers took nearly 20 minutes. We passed through corridors of increasingly elaborate decoration, each one guarded by soldiers who watched me with undisguised suspicion. The servant never looked back to check if I was following. Finally, we reached a door of deep blue metal, engraved with patterns I didn't recognize. "Enter," came her voice from within. The servant bowed and vanished. I took a breath and stepped through. The room beyond was nothing like I expected. Where the public spaces of the palace screamed power and grandeur, this was almost modest. Comfortable furniture arranged around a real fireplace. Shelves lined with what appeared to be books. A window showing the sprawling city below, alive with morning traffic. The Empress stood at that window, her back to me. She traded her formal robes for something simpler, still elegant, still unmistakably royal, but softer. More real. "You came," she said without turning. "You said don't be late. Many say things. Few mean them." She turned then, and I was struck again by how different she looked away from the throne. "No tie." "Neither do I." She moved to one of the chairs and sat, gesturing for me to do the same. "That troubles me. I have not acted without purpose since I took the throne 73 years ago." I sat across from her, trying not to calculate how old that made her. Velkhari lifespans were measured in centuries. She could be ancient by human standards, and still be considered young here. 73 years, I said. "That's longer than most human governments last. Your species measures time so differently. A Velkhari life spans 400 to 500 of your years. 73 years of rule is barely an establishment of precedent." She studied me with those 4 eyes, and I felt like a specimen under a microscope. "How old are you, Marcus Cole?" 34, an infant. "By your standards. By mine, I'm almost halfway done." Something shifted in her expression. "That is non-guy." A melancholy thought. "It's just reality. Do all humans accept their brevity so calmly? The ones who've already lost what mattered most do." She was silent for a long moment. The fire crackled softly between us. "Tell me about that," she finally said. "What you have lost." It wasn't a command exactly, but it wasn't quite a request either. I should have deflected, should have turned the conversation to safer topics, to the diplomatic mission, to the cultural exchange we were supposedly here to discuss. Instead, I found myself speaking. Her name was Elena. We met in graduate school. She was studying xenobiology. I was in engineering. We married young, against everyone's advice. I stared at the fire rather than at her. She got sick when she was 29. Something in her brain. The doctors couldn't explain it, couldn't treat it. She was gone in 8 months. When? 2 years ago to what? Almost exactly. And you joined this mission. To get as far from home as possible. To stop seeing her everywhere I looked. I finally met her eyes. Your turn. The directness startled her. I saw her recoil slightly, then catch herself. My turn? Fair is fair. I showed you my wound. Now show me yours. No one had ever spoken to her like this. I could tell by the way she processed the request, turning it over like an unfamiliar object. You pursue much, human. You invited me here to discuss cultural matters. This is my culture. Honesty for honesty. Pain for pain. She could have had me executed for that. Imprisoned at least. Instead, she laughed. Very well. She settled back in her chair, and her posture changed. Less empress, more woman. I have ruled alone for 73 years because I refused every suitor my court deemed acceptable. There have been hundreds. Nobles, military commanders, princes from allied worlds. I rejected them all. Why? Because they wanted the throne. They wanted the power, the prestige, the legacy of bonding with an empress. None of them, not one, wanted me. She said it matter-of-factly, without self-pity, which somehow made it worse. I have 4 siblings. We were raised to compete for succession. I won. My reward was a crown and an eternity of solitude. That's not a reward. No, but it isn't. We sat in silence, 2 broken people in a room full of beautiful things. Yesterday, she said slowly, when you said I looked tired. When you looked at me and saw something other than my title. Do you understand how long it has been since anyone did that? Probably about as long as it's been since anyone looked at me and didn't see the guy whose wife died. Her head tilted slightly. Curiosity. They define you by your loss? Humans aren't great at dealing with grief. Especially other people's. Most of my friends stopped calling after the first few months. My family keeps trying to set me up with nice women who'd be perfect for me. Like Elena was just a car I wrecked, and I should be shopping for a replacement. That is cruel. They don't mean it to be. They just don't know what else to do. Intention does not erase impact. No, I agreed. It doesn't. She rose from her chair and moved to the window again. The morning light caught her silver skin, and I understood suddenly why the Velkhari were sometimes called living moonlight. The court will be furious about this arrangement, she said. Veylith is already spreading rumors. My advisors have counseled me to send you away, to repair whatever damage my moment of weakness has caused. Are you going to? I should. She didn't turn around. It would be the politically sensible choice, but I am tired, Marcus Cole. 73 years tired. And yesterday, for one moment, I felt something other than exhaustion. Now she did turn, and her 4 eyes held mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. I am not prepared to give that up yet. What exactly are you suggesting? I am suggesting nothing. I am stating a fact. You will continue to attend me each morning, as announced. We will discuss cultural matters. The corner of her mouth twitched. What we actually discuss is between us. And the court? The court can adapt or suffer. I'm still Empress. I should have been afraid. This was complicated, dangerous, almost certainly unwise. Getting entangled with royalty never ended well, especially alien royalty, especially when the entire diplomatic mission hung in the balance. But when I looked at her, I didn't see an Empress. I saw someone drowning in the same dark water I'd been treading for 2 years. Same time tomorrow? I asked. That almost smile again. Barely there, but unmistakable. Same time tomorrow. 3 weeks passed like water through my fingers. Every morning, I walked the blue corridor to her chambers. Every morning we talked. About Earth and Velkhar, about loss and loneliness, about the weight of expectations neither of us had chosen. I learned that her name, in the informal register her people used among intimates, was Seraphith. I learned that she'd wanted to be a composer before duty claimed her. I learned that she kept a collection of music crystals from her youth, hidden in a drawer she never opened because the memories hurt too much. She learned about Chicago winters and summer thunderstorms. About how Elena used to dance in the kitchen while cooking. About my father, gone to cancer when I was 12. and my mother's slow decline into silence afterward. About the way humans cried, which fascinated and horrified her in equal measure. We never touched. The space between us remained exactly what it had been that first day, 3 feet of charged air, heavy with things unsaid. But the court noticed. Veylith led the opposition, of course. He was a high senator, one of the 12 nobles who formed the advisory council, and he had ambitions that Serapith's continued solitude served perfectly. An unmarried empress meant an unsettled succession. An unsettled succession meant opportunity. I started finding obstacles in my path. Servants who forgot to deliver messages. Schedules that conflicted with my morning appointments. Once, a minor noble accidentally spilled ceremonial wine on my only formal outfit hours before a diplomatic function. Ambassador Chen pulled me aside after that incident. "You need to be careful," he said, his face drawn with worry. "Whatever's happening between you and the Empress, nothing is happening. Something is happening. The whole palace is talking about it. And the Velkhari don't just talk, they scheme. You're making enemies you can't afford. I'm having morning conversations about cultural exchange. That's my assigned duty. Marcus." He gripped my arm. "I've known you for 3 years. You've been sleepwalking through life since Elena. Now suddenly you're awake again, and it's because of her. I'm not blind. I didn't have an answer for that. Just be careful," he repeated, "for both your sakes." I wasn't careful enough. It happened on day 22, at a formal reception celebrating some Velkhari holiday I didn't fully understand. The entire court was present, along with delegations from allied worlds. Serapith sat on her throne, resplendent in ceremonial silver, playing her role with practiced perfection. I was doing my best to be invisible near the human delegation's assigned spot. That's when Veylith made his move. "Your Radiance." His voice cut through the ambient noise of conversation. The hall fell quiet. I begged permission to address the assembly on a matter of great importance. Serapith's expression didn't change, but I saw her fingers tighten on the armrest. "Speak, Senator. I thank your Radiance." Veylith bowed with theatrical flourish, then straightened and played to the crowd. "We have welcomed the human delegation as guests. We have extended them every courtesy. And yet I find myself troubled by certain irregularities." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. "It has come to my attention," Veylith continued, "that a member of the human contingent has been granted unprecedented access to the imperial chambers. Daily private audiences, with no witnesses, no records, no adherence to protocol." More murmurs. Louder now. I do not suggest impropriety, of course. Our Empress is above suspicion. But appearances matter. And the appearance of a primitive alien species exerting influence over the crown of Velkhar is being concerning. Chen made a small sound of distress beside me. The other human diplomats were frozen, uncertain how to react. Serapith's voice, when she spoke, could have frozen the twin suns. "Senator Veylith, you speak of irregularities. You speak of appearances. You speak of everything except the actual point you're too cowardly to make directly. Your Radiance, you merely seek to shame me into abandoning the first genuine companionship I have known in 73 years of rule." She rose from the throne, and the temperature in the room seemed to drop. "You seek to isolate me further, to ensure I remain the lonely figurehead you and your allies can manipulate. You speak of protecting the crown while plotting to control it. That is an outrageous accusation." Veylith's composure cracked. "I am loyal. You are ambitious. There's a difference." She descended the steps, her robes trailing behind her like liquid silver. "Let me be perfectly clear, Senator. My private affairs are not subject to court approval. My choice of companions is not open for debate. And if you ever use this assembly to question my judgment again, you will discover how much latitude an empress has in matters of discipline." The silence was absolute. No one moved. No one breathed. Then Veylith did something incredibly stupid. "Perhaps," he said, his voice trembling with suppressed rage, "the human has enchanted you. Their species is known for manipulation, for deception, for worming their way into positions of influence despite their obvious inferiority. I should have stayed quiet. I should have let Serapith handle it." But he was looking at her like she was broken, like she was weak, like wanting connection made her less. "Senator. I stepped forward, and 300 pairs of eyes locked onto me. "I think you've said enough. The animal speaks." Veylith laughed. An ugly sound. "Tell me, creature, what tricks have you employed? What human magic have you used to bewitch our Empress?" "No magic, just honesty." I kept walking until I stood at the base of the throne steps. Something you clearly don't understand. You dare? I dare because someone should. Your Empress is the most capable leader I've ever encountered. She manages an empire spanning dozens of star systems while navigating a court full of politicians who care more about power than people. And in all that, in all her years of service, no one, not one of you, ever thought to ask if she was okay. I turned to face the assembly. These beings who towered over me, who could crush me without effort, who considered my species barely worth acknowledging. You want to know why she talks to me? Because I see her. Not the crown, not the throne, not the power. Her. And I think that terrifies you, Senator. Because if she stops being a symbol and starts being a person, you lose your leverage. Veylith's face contorted with fury. You will pay for this insolence, Veylith. Seraphith's voice cut through his threat. Leave his hall, now. Your radiance, now. For a moment, I thought he might actually refuse. His hands clenched at his sides, his body rigid with humiliation and rage. Then he turned and stalked out, and I knew I'd made an enemy for life. The reception dissolved into chaos after that. Chen rushed me out through a side door, cursing under his breath about diplomatic incidents and interstellar wars. I barely heard him. I was thinking about the look on Seraphith's face as I'd spoken. Shock, yes. But beneath it, something else. Something that looked terrifyingly like hope. She found me 3 hours later, alone in the palace gardens. You shouldn't have done that, she said, appearing from the shadows like a ghost. Probably not. Veylith will try to destroy you now. He has resources, allies. He will not rest until you are gone from Velkar. I know. She moved closer, and I realized she'd changed from her formal robes into something simpler. Her silver skin seemed to glow in the garden's bioluminescent light. Why? She asked. Why risk yourself for me? I thought about lying, about deflecting with humor or diplomacy. Instead, I told the truth. Because when Elena was sick, everyone treated her like she was already gone. They talked about her in the past tense while she was still in the room. They looked through her instead of at her. I met her 4 eyes, and something in my chest ached. No one should be invisible in their own life. Especially not you. She was very close now. Close enough that I could see the subtle patterns in her skin, the way her smaller eyes tracked slightly differently than the larger ones. You confused me, Marcus Cole. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I have led armies. I have broken rebellions. I have made decisions that cost millions of lives for the greater good. And yet this small human, this infant by my standards, makes me feel uncertain in a way I cannot explain. Is that bad? I don't know. I have no reference point for it. She reached out, and her hand hovered an inch from my chest. May I? I nodded. Her palm pressed against my heart. Her skin was cool, smooth, nothing like human skin. Through that touch, I felt her tremble. So fast, she murmured. Your heartbeat, like a bird's wings. Humans run hot. I covered her hand with mine, holding it there. Literally. Our core temperature is higher than most species. You burn bright and brief. There was wonder in her voice, and sorrow, like stars. Some would say that makes each moment more precious. Some would say it makes attachment foolish. To care for something that will fade so quickly. And what do you say? She didn't answer. But she didn't pull away either. We stood like that, her hand against my heart, mine covering hers, as the bioluminescent flowers painted us in shades of blue and silver. It wasn't a kiss. It wasn't a declaration. It was just 2 lonely people, standing in a garden, refusing to let go. It was enough. Veylith's retaliation came faster than expected. I woke to alarms, shrieking klaxons that shattered the pre-dawn silence of the Sapphire Wing. Chen burst through my door seconds later. We need to move. Now. What's happening? Coup attempt. Veylith and his faction. They're moving on the Imperial chambers. The word hit me like ice water. Seraphith. She's the target. Her personal guard is loyal, but Veylith has military support. It's going to be close. I was already moving, not toward the evacuation route Chen was gesturing at, but toward the blue corridor. Marcus! We have to get to the secure zone. Go without me. Are you insane? They'll kill you on sight, then they'll kill me. I didn't stop. I'm not leaving her. Chen grabbed my arm. There's nothing you can do. You're not a soldier. No. I'm her friend. And she shouldn't have to face this alone. Something in my expression must have convinced him, because his grip loosened. This is suicide, Marcus. Maybe. Go take care of the delegation. I ran. The palace had become a war zone. I heard explosions in the distance, the crack of energy weapons, screams in languages I didn't understand. Twice I nearly ran into groups of soldiers, but the chaos worked in my favor. No one expected a lone human to be sprinting toward the fighting. The blue door was guarded by bodies. 3 of Seraphith's personal guard, cut down in formation, still clutching their weapons. I stepped over them with a grief I'd process later if there was a later. Inside, I found a standoff. Seraphith stood at the center of her chambers, a small energy pistol in her hand. Around her, 5 of her remaining guards formed a protective circle. Facing them, Veylith and at least 30 armed soldiers blocked every exit. Empress. Veylith's voice dripped with false courtesy. Your reign has come to an end. Surrender peacefully, and I'll ensure your death is painless. You always were a coward, Veylith. Bringing an army to take one woman. A necessary precaution. You've proven unpredictable lately. His eyes scanned the room and landed on me, frozen in the doorway. Ah. The human pet. How fitting that you've come to watch. Every weapon in the room swung toward me. I raised my hands slowly. Marcus. Seraphith's voice broke slightly. Why are you here? You said same time tomorrow. I'm early. A laugh escaped her. Half sob, half genuine amusement. You impossible creature. Your radiance. One of her guards spoke urgently. We cannot hold them. The reinforcements. There are no reinforcements. Veylith smiled. I've been planning this for years. Every ally you thought you had is either neutralized or on my side. The Empire is mine. The Empire is mine. The Empire belongs to its people. The people do what they're told. As will you, one final time. He gestured to his soldiers. Kill the guards. Take the Empress alive. As for the human, his smile widened. Make it slow. What happened next took perhaps 3 seconds, though it felt like hours. I moved. Not towards safety. There was none, but towards Seraphith. Some instinct, some desperate need to be near her at the end. The guards opened fire. Veylith's soldiers returned it. Bodies fell on both sides. And then I was there, standing in front of her, arms spread wide as if my fragile human body could stop an energy blast. Marcus, no. The shot caught me in the shoulder. The pain was extraordinary, burning and freezing at once, spreading through my nervous system like lightning. I felt myself falling. Felt Seraphith catch me, felt her lower us both to the ground. You fool, she was saying. You absolute fool. Why would you? Because I wasn't going to let you die alone. The words came out slurred. Blood. So much blood. Was that all mine? Pooled beneath us. Because you matter. You matter so much. I matter. Her voice cracked. Marcus, you're dying. Already lost everything once. Couldn't watch it happen again. Not to you. Her hand pressed against my wound, trying to stem the bleeding. Her silver skin was stained red with my blood. In her 4 eyes, I saw something I'd never seen there before. Terror. Not for herself. For me. Don't you leave me, she whispered. Don't you dare. That's an Imperial command. Never was good at following orders. The fighting around us had stopped. I didn't know why, didn't care. The edges of my vision were going dark. Seraphith. I reached up with my good arm, touched her face. Her skin was wet. Tears? Could Valkyrie cry? I need to tell you. Save your strength. No, need to say it. I forced the words out through the pain. These weeks. Talking to you. Seeing you. It's the first time since Elena that I've wanted to live. Wanted tomorrow to come. You gave me that. Marcus, don't be alone anymore. Promise me. Whatever happens. Don't go back to being invisible. She was definitely crying now, silver tears tracking down her silver face. I promise. I promise. But you're not dying, do you hear me? I won't allow it. Empress doesn't get to command death. Watch me. She looked up, and her voice became something else. Not the tired woman I'd come to know, but the ruler who'd held an empire for 73 years. Medical team. Now. Anyone who delays will be executed. Your radiance, Veylith's voice, smug even now. The human is dying. There's nothing, Veylith. The name was a thunderclap. You will be silent, or I will remove your tongue myself. I heard footsteps. Running. D. Shouting. The room was full of new people suddenly. When had that happened? Reinforcements arrived, someone was saying. The senator's forces are contained. I don't care about forces. Save him. Hands on me. Professional, efficient. Pain spiking as they worked. Your radiance. The wound is severe. Human physiology is Thessari. We're not equipped, then become equipped. Use every resource. If he dies, so does everyone in this room. Darkness pulled at me. I let it come. The last thing I heard was Seraphith's voice, fierce and broken and beautiful. Stay with me, Marcus. Stay with me, please. I woke to soft light and softer sheets. For a long moment I couldn't remember where I was. Then the pain hit, dulled, distant, but present. And everything came flooding back. You're awake. I turned my head. Seraphith sat beside my bed looking nothing like an empress. Her robes were wrinkled. Her hair was unkempt. Her eyes, all four of them, were rimmed with exhaustion. How long? My voice came out as a croak. 6 days. Your wound became infected. There were complications. The doctors. She stopped, composed herself. There were moments when they told me to prepare for the worst. You look terrible. She laughed, watery, relieved, genuine. I've been told that, repeatedly, by every advisor I have. Apparently an empress shouldn't spend 6 days at a human's bedside. What did you tell them? Words I cannot repeat in civilized company. I tried to smile. It hurt. Veylith? Imprisoned. Awaiting trial. His conspiracy extended further than I realized. 3 senators, dozens of military officers, various court functionaries. Her expression darkened. I should have seen it coming. Should have been more vigilant. You were busy. Yes. Getting to know an impossible human who nearly got himself killed defending me. She reached out, and her cool fingers intertwined with mine. The entire court is scandalized, you know. An empress, holding vigil for an alien. It's unprecedented. Do you care? Not even slightly. Silence stretched between us, but it was comfortable. Familiar, darting. 6 days of her beside me, apparently. 6 days of her refusing to leave. Seraphith. I squeezed her hand as best I could. What happens now? Now you recover. The doctors say you'll need months of rehabilitation. Possibly years. Your shoulder will never be quite right. But you'll live. That's not what I meant. She understood. Of course she did. What happens now, she said slowly, is that I do something I should have done weeks ago. She stood, and suddenly she was the empress again, tall, regal, unmistakable. But she didn't release my hand. Marcus Cole of Earth, I am going to offer you a position. A position? Imperial consort. The words hit me like a second energy blast. That's Seraphith. That's basically marriage. Yes. By our customs, a consort is an equal partner, not a subordinate. You would rule beside me. Share my burdens. Share my bed eventually if that is something you... She faltered, vulnerability cracking through the regal facade. I'm asking you to stay. Not as a diplomat. Not as a liaison. As mine. The court will never accept it. The court will learn to. Or, they won't. I find I care less and less about their approval with each passing day. I'm human. I'll age. I'll die while you're still in your prime. Yes. She said it simply, without flinching. I have thought about this extensively during the past 6 days. Watching you struggle for each breath. Watching your vital signs fluctuate. I thought about how brief your life is. How much I would lose when you eventually leave me. And I decided I would rather have 30 or 40 years of genuine partnership than 400 more years of loneliness. She sat back down, and the Empress was gone again. Replaced by the woman I'd come to know. You taught me something, Marcus. You taught me that connections don't have to be permanent to be meaningful. That loving something brief can be worth the grief of losing it. My eyes burned. I hadn't cried since Elena's funeral. But now, I can't promise I'm healed, I said. I still carry her with me. I always will. I would never ask you to forget. Elena made you who you are. I am not competing with a memory. I am asking for whatever you can give for however long we have. People will talk. They'll say you've been enchanted. That the human tricked you. Let them talk. I know the truth. She leaned closer, and her forehead touched mine. A gesture of intimacy I'd never seen between Valkyrie before. The truth is that a grieving man looked at a lonely empress and saw a person instead of a crown. The truth is that he risked his life to stand beside her when everyone else fled. The truth is that for the first time in 73 years, I wake up wanting to face the day. Because of me. Because of you. I thought about Elena. About the promises I'd made to her at the end. To live, to find happiness, to not let her death become the end of my story. I thought about the 2 years I'd spent breaking those promises. going through the motions of existence without actually living. I thought about Seraphith, silver and radiant and impossibly brave, offering me a future I'd never imagined. Yes, I said. Yes, yes. To all of it. The position, the partnership, the complications, the court's disapproval. Yes. She kissed me then. It was nothing like human kisses, cool where Elena had been warm, different angles, different sensations entirely. But it was real. It was connection. It was a beginning. When she pulled back, her 4 eyes were shining with tears again. You know, she said, a smile breaking through. You never did explain why you were staring at me that first day. I told you. Because you're stunning. You said that made it hard to think. Still does. I touched her face, traced the patterns of light beneath her skin. Probably always will. Good. She kissed me again, softer this time. I would hate to be forgettable. Outside the medical wing's windows, the alien sun was rising over the capital city. Somewhere, the court was in chaos, the diplomatic corps was having collective heart failure, and the galaxy was adjusting to the news that a human would share the throne of Velkar. None of it mattered. What mattered was this room. This moment. This woman who had seen through my grief and offered me something I'd thought I'd lost forever. A reason to look forward to tomorrow. I was still broken. So was she. But maybe that was okay. Maybe broken things could find their way to each other and make something new. Something whole. Something stunning.